folks, to the Steve Malzberg Show. We are joined right now by the ranking member of the House Small Business Committee. He is Congressman Sam Graves, Republican from Missouri. Hey, Congressman, how are you, sir?
How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing fine. Before we get into your expertise in the piece that you wrote that appeared on in The Hill, I just want to get your view here. First of all, David Axelrod said today that a vote against health care is a vote against America, saying that basically you're un-American if you're going to register your vote in the Congress or the Senate against health care reform. Your comment?
I think that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The thing about it is we have to remember how much money is being spent in this country right now as far as the government's concerned, and the simple fact that it's unsustainable. It's absolutely unsustainable. And then here comes another bill on top of more spending that is just going to it's literally breaking our nation, and somebody's got to pay for that. For some reason or other, we have folks out there that forget that sooner or later somebody's got to pay for all of this spending, and it's just, I said before, unsustainable.
Well, $1.4 trillion deficit now. Of course, little Katie Couric didn't see fit to bring it up yesterday. Neither did the CBS Morning Show. But a year ago, when the deficit was $430-something billion, they announced proudly that George Bush tripled the deficit from a year prior. I guess it depends who triples it. But you're right, Congressman. I mean, beyond health care, the Bush tax cuts are going to expire. That's going to hurt small business and a lot of people. Then you got health care, tax. Cap and trade, God forbid that goes through, tax. Then Nancy Pelosi's talking about a value-added tax, which people don't even have a clue what they're in for. If they think times are bad now and companies aren't hiring now and small businesses are getting hurt now, as you point out, just under health care alone, small businesses will be devastated. But with everything I've just mentioned, I mean, it's as if Obama is purposely trying to wreck this economy.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I remember, a few years ago when we heard so much from the liberal side of things, the far left, talking about, pushing jobs out of this country and conservative policies pushing jobs out of this country. Well, there has been no worse, administration in terms of creating a good climate for business than this administration and the Pelosi and Harry Reid-led Congress. They're doing everything they can to push jobs out of this country and send business overseas where it's much, much easier to operate.
When they say, and the CBO marked up the bill, the Senate Finance Committee bill yesterday, and the Democrats are celebrating because according to the CBO, the bill is paid for. All these things it's paid for. Well, it's paid for with tax increases for them and cuts, but lots and lots of billions and billions in tax increases. So it's hardly paid for unless they pass these tax increases, correct?
It's exactly right. And the unfortunate part is the far left, they think that there is a revenue problem in Washington, D.C., that there's just not enough taxes, not enough revenue coming in. That couldn't be farther from the truth. It's a spending problem. Washington, D.C. has a spending problem, and this administration and Speaker Pelosi and her allies, they are continuing to add to that, and they just don't think that anybody is, I assume they don't think that sooner or later it's going to have to be paid for.
All right, talk about small business, and we're talking to Congressman Sam Graves, Republican from Missouri, who is the ranking member on the House Small Business Committee. Small businesses are the engine of this country. Small businesses have been hit hard by Obama. It started, he trumpeted what he was going to do with Joe the plumber. Small business owner wanted to buy a plumbing company, $250,000, whatever, and we're just going to take some of your money away and give it to those who don't have it. Don't worry, we're not going to hurt you. We're just going to take some of it away. Well, I mean, let's look at what health care reform in this Baucus bill would do to small businesses.
Yeah, it's just, and you mentioned it before, it's mandating, it's taxing, and it's just that's the worst thing you can do, particularly in a climate like we have now, because it is going to destroy job creation. The only way to try to figure out how to pay for this, if you're a small business, is to cut jobs, is to not expand, and try to figure out some way to pay for the surcharges and the mandated expenses and the penalties you're going to have to pay for it.
Right, you're fined if you don't follow along, and here's the funny part or the sad part. Charles Charlie Rangel, who the Ethics Committee said just a little while ago they're expanding their investigation into him, so I guess it's going to be 3 more years before they do anything. But Charlie Rangel has been inserting language into these bills, or in the House anyway, that give the IRS expanded power, to enforce the fines and the investigating who has and who doesn't have health care insurance, and going after those people and those small businesses, and making it harder for the average person to fight the IRS, even if they made an honest mistake, which is the epitome of irony and hypocrisy, because that's what Rangel claims he made, was honest mistakes. So, I mean, it just gets the news gets worse and worse.
Yeah, it's an assault on small business. For some reason, the Democrats have decided that small business is either the enemy or they have all of the money. I haven't figured out which it is.
Well, that would, if they thought they had all the money, then in this administration, in this climate, the left would make them the enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it goes both ways. I want you to hear something, Congressman. I want to throw you a curve, but this is something we've been playing, and this appeared. Someone dug up this tape on Breitbart. It's Robert Reich, Obama advisor, former labor secretary, speaking in September of 07, when there was still Hillary and Obama and McCain and others in the race for president. And he's before Berkeley. And the context of this, and we played it, I just don't have time to play it all for you, is he says, here's what a presidential candidate should say. But he can't, and she can't, because they wouldn't get elected. But if they didn't care about getting elected, here's what a presidential candidate should tell you about health care reform, what it would do. First, he says that we have to take care of more sick people, so you young people at Berkeley are going to have to pay more. Then he says this, cut 10.
And by the way, we are going to have to, if you're very old, we're not going to give you all that technology and all those drugs for the last couple of years of your life to keep you maybe going for another couple of months. It's too expensive, so we're going to let you die.
And then he said this in cut 11.
Also, I'm going to use the bargaining leverage of the federal government in terms of Medicare, Medicaid. We already have a lot of bargaining leverage to force drug companies and insurance companies and medical suppliers to reduce their costs. But that means less innovation, and that means less new products and less new drugs on the market, which means you are probably not going to live that much longer than your parents. Thank you.
All right, so that was his mock speech. He said, "I'm going to do it off the top of my head. This is what a presidential candidate should tell you if they had the guts, if they didn't want to lie to you, but they would never get elected, so they won't. But here's what they should tell you: old people, we're not going to get. It's just what I've been saying on this show for months. Old people are not going to get what they need. There will be death panels, and you heard about innovation, new products, new drugs. There'll be no incentive for that. As a matter of fact, it'll go the other way. This is a disaster."
Yeah, it is. And you know what's scary about those clips, too, is you had people in the audience cheering it.
Yeah. A few lunatics cheered. I know.
Well, and you know what? They tried to disguise this stuff. You know, it's just like when they say bargaining power. They want to say the federal government should have all this bargaining power. It's not bargaining power. It's called price fixing.
Yeah.
That's what it's called, and that's what it is. And the federal government, that's the reason that Medicare and Medicaid is the disaster that it is because the government price fixes. And that's what's going to happen under this bill. They're going to ration care, and they're going to price fix, and there's going to be no incentive. In fact, our healthcare system will fall much shorter than any other countries because it's going to degrade so much.
Absolutely. One more for you, Congressman. Your colleague Anthony Weiner, Democrat, said that the Baucus bill basically is a non-starter. Do you think that there's going to be sufficient dissent in the House if there's no public option in the Senate bill? And do you think that they would vote against it in the House? And where do you think this is all going to wind up?
You know, that's a good question. I can tell you, though, I hope the country, folks out there, stay fired up on this. You know, I did 23 town hall meetings during August, and folks were upset. They're frustrated. They are fired up, and I hope they stay that way because that's having more effect on these bills than anything else could.
Right.
Because they're putting pressure. People are putting pressure on their elected officials, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And that's what's going to bring these two bad bills down and maybe see some real, some reforms that need to take place rather than things that are going to destroy our economy, destroy our healthcare system, and destroy small business.
Congressman Stephen Israel had a town hall meeting just the other day out on Long Island. He's a Democrat. He was told by Obama not to dare challenge Kirsten Gillibrand in a primary, and he acquiesced. Anyway, I think 450, 500 people. They would barely let him speak. They were angry. They were outraged, and he wasn't too happy. So just because the meetings aren't taking place, it doesn't mean the outrage is gone. And you're absolutely right. People need to stay on top of this and not let it fade away. And, Congressman, I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Congressman Sam Graves, ladies and gentlemen, Republican from the great state of Missouri. And he knows what's going to happen to small business. He understands what's going on. He wrote the piece in the Hill. He's the ranking member of the House Small Business Committee. Folks,